Put your arms behind your back.
Ow! You're hitting my arm. Get off me. Ow!
As soon as he asks you.
Yes, I actually had a sub just
Turn over. Turn over.
As soon as he asks you.
Do not resist. Do not resist. Stop resisting.
Get off me. Ow! You're hurting me.
All right.
Stop resisting.
Please stop resisting.
Stop resisting.
Ow!
Just stop, hon.
Get off me.
Stop resisting. Stop. Put your arms behind your back.
Let me get off.
Zach, let's let her stand up.
Get off of me.
Stop resisting.
Get off of me.
Stop
Get
resisting.
off of me.
We're past that.
Get off of me.
Stop resisting.
Okay, it's on you from here then, Zach.
Get
on
off
you.
me.
It's on you.
Stop.
I've asked you to let her stand up. It's on you from here, Zach.
Get off of me.
Stop resisting.
Get off of me.
Put your hands
I can't.
behind your back.
Hey,
Get off of me.
Put them behind
I
your back.
can't because you have it. Let
Yes,
go of me.
I have it.
Get off of
hey,
me.
just do as he asks, hon. Don't make anything worse. Okay?
Stop making it
I
harder.
can't.
Stand up.
Get off of me.
Stand up.
You can't give me all these commands and expect me to do every single one of them at
I
once.
want you
Stand up.
Get
Put
off of me.
your hands
Stop
behind your
touching
back.
me. Get off of me. Stop. Get off of me. Okay, I can't, but I'll do
Now.
it. I'll do it, but I can't because you're on me.
Officer Christensen, you need to allow her to stand up, sir. Hey, let her try to stand Officer up. Christensen, you need to allow her to stand up.
Stand up. Stand
Get
up.
off of me.
Stand up.
Get off of me.
Stand up.
Stop touching me.
Hey,
This cop beats the living shit out of an 11-year-old. Why? Why? And if you notice, the people, the school administrators are like, hey, let her stand up. And at one point, she's not a threat to you or to me. And he says, yes, she is. This is an 11-year-old. 11 years old, special needs kid that this cop is beating the shit out of. And again, why? Why? What is so threatening in this particular moment that this particular cop needed to beat this 11-year-old for? Why? Why? What's so threatening in this moment?
Put your arms behind your back.
Why? Why? Why is this necessary for this cop to beat this 11-year-old special needs child? That the school administrators at this point are policing him because he's gone so far in regards to this process. Milk. Milk. She took too much milk. This 11-year-old special needs child took too much milk.
Yes, I actually had a sub just
Turn over. Turn over.
do as he asks you.
Do not resist. Do not resist. Stop resisting.
Get off me. Ow, you're hurting me.
All right.
There are going to be some right-wingers who say, well, that 11-year-old special needs kid shouldn't have taken all that milk. And that 11-year-old special needs kid should have listened to the officer. But if you're training, regardless of what this 11-year-old special needs kid did, ends up in this situation,
Stop resisting.
then something's wrong with your training.
Stop resisting.
And I put to you, my thought was, it is fortunate that this 11-year-old didn't get shot. And it is also fortunate that this 11-year-old is on videotape. And in both of those situations, it had little to do with the 11-year-old and everything to do with the cop and the cop's training. Michael Brown getting choked to death on the streets of New York City for a loose cigarette, and right-wingers say, well, hey, I mean, he should have listened to that cop. Missing the entire point that if your training as a cop ends up with a situation like this, then something is wrong with your
Stop
training.
resisting. Stop. Put your arms behind your back.
Let me get off.
Zach,
This guy quit. It doesn't even matter his name. This is pretty much every cop in America. He quit his job, and he justifies what you are watching in some particular fashion. Yelling at this other guy, oh, we're beyond that. She's a threat. Give back that milk. Give back that milk. You took way too much milk, miss. So now all of this is justified.
Let's let her stand up.
Get off of me.
Stop resisting.
Get off of me.
Stop
Get
resisting.
off of me.
We're past that.
We're past that. We're past that. We're past good rational sense. Now we're just into that good old-fashioned, I can beat the shit out of an 11-year-old child. That's where we're at. Lord knows you're fortunate this was not my kid. And you quitting is not enough. Any rational society would have prosecuted. His ass would be in prison right now for abusing and beating a child. I don't care that she took too much milk. I care about your actions after. And I care about this. An 11-year-old special needs kid is being beaten and abused while other adults watch because he's a cop. And he justifies the beating the shit out of an 11-year-old special needs kid because she took too much milk. What do you think? You think this behavior is rational? I'm telling you, this behavior takes place every day across America. Not just the children, and in this case, a 11-year-old black kid. And maybe they even make the argument she's dangerous because, she's black. He has to do what he has to do. This cannot be justified in any rational society. And if your training gets you to this point, I don't care that she took the milk. She's not a threat to him. She's not a threat to anybody in this process. And you act this way, then there's something wrong with you, and there's something wrong with training that allows you in your head to think that this is acceptable and okay behavior. He should be fired. He should be charged with battery, and he should be put in prison. And I hope the parents in this community flips the fuck out. If they need to burn shit down to get across, this is unacceptable behavior, then it's justified. This shouldn't happen. Under no circumstances should this happen. Definitely not for taking milk. If this cop's life was in danger, fair enough. And there may be some 11-year-olds that are like 250 pounds that this cop is absolutely threatened by. Fair enough. But let's be clear, that's not the situation that this cop was presented with. An 11-year-old special needs girl, and that's not me being sexist because she is literally a child, is getting outright abuse. Fortunately, the body camera was able to catch it, and apparently people standing by was able to videotape it. Video cameras, body cameras should be on all times. There should be no situation where a cop is interacting with you or the public where there is a one-to-one, meaning you and just that particular individual. That power dynamic should never take place, ever, under any circumstances. Because if that power dynamic did take place in a vacuum, this would have went unknown. This child would have just been abused in silence. And if a child is abused, if an 11-year-old special needs child is outright battered and abused by a cop in the forest, not videotaped, doesn't really happen at all. It's kind of like if a tree falls in the forest and nobody's there, does it happen? If a cop beats the shit out of an 11-year-old special needs girl over milk and nobody videotapes it, does it really happen at all? No, it doesn't. It does to that special needs girl. The rest of society looks on and doesn't give two shits about it. This cop needs to be in jail. This cop should be charged with battery. And no, taking too much milk doesn't justify a cop beating the shit out of a kid. And by the way, not listening to him doesn't justify this either. Meaning her, not whatever he wants to say, not listening to her commands, allows the beating the shit out of an 11-year-old special needs girl. I hope you understand this. There is no rational mind that can look at this process and say, yes, this should have turned out the way it did. And this special needs kid, however she responded, wasn't fighting him, wasn't being aggressive towards him, none of that stuff. You have to videotape yourself. This behavior is massively unjustified. Training in cops in this country needs to be adjusted if that's the outcome. Like, share, subscribe. I'll be right back.